The town famous for its taxation without representation license plates may be getting the vote this year. Lawmakers are currently looking at a bill that would give Washington, D.C. voting powers in Congress.
And privileges that all other Americans have, and that's our demand. So when we demand the vote, we're really demanding democracy. We're demanding the rest of what comes with the vote.
I have to show the residents of the District of Columbia that I walked the full mile before we give in on taking away anything that we have fought for and died for.
We have an expert in the studio this week to talk about D.C.'s congressional vote with our very own Evan Banks. Evan?
Thanks, Zuleha. Dr. John Watson is joining me in the studio today. He holds a law degree and is a career journalist specializing in media law and journalism ethics, and is also a professor of journalism here at American University's School of Communications. He's the author of Journalism Ethics by Court Decree and co-author of Emissary, an upcoming book about the changing mission of journalists of color. Thanks for being here with us, Dr. Watson.
I'm happy to be here.
Okay. A lot of people see the issue as Republicans don't want D.C. to have a vote because D.C. will swing Democratic from now until the end of time. But is there any kind of history behind D.C. not having a vote?
Yeah, it's history grounded in politics and the need for power and the politicians' need not to allow the opposition any excessive power. And so the Republican position is common, not necessarily to Republicans, but to whomever has the upper hand in this power struggle.
Okay. How has that historically been interpreted?
Okay. Throughout the centuries, there have been a number of power issues. Most significant to me was the struggle over the issue of slavery that began early in American history. The founders, when they set up the District of Columbia, were cognizant that Maryland and Virginia, which contributed the land that created the District of Columbia, were slaveholding states. But there are other non-slaveholding states that did not want the capital to be a slaveholding position. So there was some political byplay there, just on the issue of slavery. The political issues they fight over vary from decade to decade.
Right. And I'm seeing two very different interpretations of the Constitution right now. So.
Yeah, some say the Constitution bans. Some say the Constitution allows D.C. to have a vote in Congress. The reality is, the law says what whomever is interpreting it at the moment says. That generally is the United States Supreme Court. So if the Supreme Court wanted to say D.C. must have voting rights, they could find wording in the Constitution that would justify that. And there's wording in there to justify the opposite result as well. And that's because when these laws, when the Constitution was written, there was no single intent. There were hundreds of intents because each of these laws had hundreds of authors. So you can look through those hundreds of intents and find one that matches your particular need.
Right. What are the chances that you think the bill will pass?
I think it's very slim. Right now it's very slim because the political issues are too great. We know that a slight swing in the political tally could affect the United States for decades to come. And the people in power, either through electoral power or through the court, are really loath to give it up.
So, some of the, how do you think the Heller case kind of will define this bill? I know there's an amendment to put.
Right. Well, you would think that the ruling the Supreme Court made in the Heller case, which essentially gutted many of the gun control laws in Washington, D.C., ended this issue, but it didn't. The court recognizes and the people recognize that new legislation could change the effect of the Supreme Court ruling.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us today, and I believe that vote actually, the House was going to vote on that bill this week, but Majority Leader Steny Hoyer announced today that Congress would delay voting on the bill until after this summer session. Back to you, Zuleha.
Thanks, Evan. Coming up after the break, the iPad may not be as compatible as it's made out to be. Students are running into trouble on college campuses with the device. And will television eventually phase out? One social networking site is getting as popular as TV. Stay with us and find out.